So my hat's off to all of you for being here this week to address what I firmly believe is one of our biggest challenges facing.
When you look at the Wildland Urban Interface or the WUI conference, here in 2025, and why is it important now? Why is this the time to talk about WUI? You just look around our country, and we've talked about the fires that we saw in LA back in January. We've seen fires in South Carolina, Texas, Florida. We have a national problem on our hands when we talk about wildfire and how it's impacting communities, property, even lives. It doesn't matter if you're on, the West Coast, the East Coast, the South. Here at this conference, we're even hearing from folks who are from other countries, international participants, who have the same challenges we have, from pre-fire mitigation, evacuation, education, response. No one is unique, and I think that's important to note here as we continue to talk about a collaborative approach to how we address wildfire. Are we seeing new people at the conference? Absolutely. You see people from almost every state, and that's a good thing, and that we're all kind of addressing and talking about this problem. But I do think it shows that it has elevated from a Western problem to a national problem. I mean, yes, we had the LA fires in January, but if you look at the last 30 days, it was Myrtle Beach, it's been Miami, Texas has got stuff going on right now, even up into New York. The majority of fire activity we've seen in the last 30 days has all been east of the Mississippi, which only shows even more, how this problem continues to grow, whether that's because we're developing, more in that interface space. We're seeing, just weather events that impact fires. It's definitely growing and it's getting more attention from everyone, not just the western side of the country. For a lot of us, it just has to do with how big this problem is becoming. We see more and more developments that are in the interface area. So when we see that, we immediately go to talking about, what are we doing from a pre-fire mitigation standpoint, whether that's codes and standards, educating people who live in these areas. And that goes all the way through to evacuation. How are we going to respond to these things? The mutual aid component. We've continued to talk about the need for a national mutual aid system. We call it en masse, but what we need to do is figure out, how do we move resources efficiently? How do we get the closest, most appropriate resource to your emergency? When we talk about kind of the wildfire problem, this isn't something that the fire service can solve on its own. We just can't. We can educate, we can work with community to give them kind of the best practice for those pre-fire mitigations, and then obviously we'll be there for the response side. But this is much bigger. We need community planners, community leaders, developers, homeowner associations, you name it. Anybody that has any say, input, decision-making process, and how we develop, how we build our communities, we need them to be a part of this conversation. I keep referencing the LA fires, but that's the example right now is we rebuild LA. If we don't take that opportunity to implement codes and standards and pre-fire mitigation, best practices, I just got to be honest, we've missed our opportunity to prevent that from happening again in the future. We're always watching what's going on in Washington, D.C., and there's been some changes, and there'll continue to be changes. That's just politics as it is. We need to get our seasonals, wildland firefighters, we need to get those positions filled. It was great to see some steps taken to address the pay issues with our federal firefighters to make sure that those organizations can recruit and retain, just as we talk about municipal departments. We're going to need grants to unfreeze as we talk about pre-fire mitigation grants, community preparedness grants. So it is kind of a fluid or dynamic situation that we've been dealing with. It is, I guess, hopeful and positive to see that things are starting to loosen up and we're starting to get some movement again. Because the one thing I think everybody agrees on is we don't have fire season anymore. Wildfire is a year-round problem, and so to get that movement again in some of the federal programs and positions is important. because we got to move rapidly if we're going to keep up with this wildfire problem.